Welcome to another episode of Carolyn Talks Television. I'm Carolyn Topol. I'm here with my lovely co-host Rachel Arnett, and we are here to say Happy 2019.
Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen, and people of all ages.
There we go. And today, to start 2019, we are getting ready because it's coming soon, the Golden Globes.
I can't wait. This year I'm actually really excited. In past years I watch and I'm not terribly excited. But I want to see like a few people. This year I'm really excited. A lot of my shows got nominated.
The interesting thing is that while a lot of shows are nominated, the networks really suffered this time. Mm-hmm. The basic networks really suffered. We'll talk about them in a couple of minutes. A couple of the, what I would call snubs, mm-hmm. or near snubs.
Yeah. I can't even imagine being on the voting panels though, because at this point, there's so much good TV and there's so many good performances. Mm-hmm. To have to narrow it down to 5 to 7, I don't even know how they do it.
And for me, I'm trying to keep up with TV partly for this show. And I feel like if I watch television 24/7, I still would not watch everything that's aired.
No, Hulu and Netflix are dropping a new show every day, it feels to me. Sometimes 2 or 3. I've got like 4 seasons of shows that are just waiting in my queue.
Without question. I still have shows that Netflix keeps sending me saying, we know you're going to like this. Yeah. And I feel like saying, I do too. Can you give me more time? Please, Netflix.
Help me figure it out. We need a time turner like Harry Potter where we can go back in time and just
rewatch that'd be
over
great.
the same time. Yeah.
Change the past.
Yeah.
Or give us some extra past.
Extra time.
Okay, well, because as some of you might be able to detect, I have a little bit of a throat issue. I'm not sick, just having some issues. So I have a little bit of throat things, so I'm going to let Rachel do a lot of the talking today. So she's ready.
She's
ready. And she's going to start with Best Television Series Drama.
Yes, so for Best Television Series Drama, we've got The Americans on FX, Bodyguard, which started on BBC One and is now on Netflix, Homecoming, which is on HBO, I believe.
I think so.
With Julia Roberts.
Yes.
I know that was a big deal for her to come back. Killing Eve with Sandra Oh,
wow.
A historic nomination, first Asian American woman or Asian descendant woman to be nominated for an Emmy.
And co-hosting.
With, he's really,
Adam, not Adam.
We'll get back to you. Really, it's Sandra Oh that's important.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is what he's on.
Oh, Andy Samberg. It's really, I was focused on Sandra. And finally, Pose, which is, I mean, if you know how much I love RuPaul's Drag Race, the world of Pose is what allows RuPaul's Drag Race to exist, but we'll get there. The thing that stood out to both of us when we were looking at this list was The Americans on FX and Pose on FX. And everything else is Netflix, HBO.
It's what you would call,
Premium or pay
shows. I think one of the biggest snubs, I think for me that was a shock, was the absence of This Is Us. Because This Is Us is still hitting the mark in the ratings.
Yeah.
Still up there. People love it. People want it. People relate to it.
Well, and it's hard because I wonder then, like, do they look at it and they say, wow, these individual performances are incredible, but the show, like, how do they make that distinction? I can't imagine having to sit there and say, well, the show's fine, but only these people really stand out.
And I don't even think they're nominated, though.
Yeah.
None of them are nominated.
No.
This Is Us truly was snubbed by the Golden Globes.
Yeah, completely locked out.
And I don't understand that. I mean, Sterling K. Brown, really?
Yeah.
How could he be locked out? I could watch each week just to watch him.
There are online videos on YouTube dedicated just to his scenes from every episode.
Chrissy Metz.
Yeah.
Playing a really, really tough, dramatic arc of a woman trying to convince people it's okay for her to have a baby, and she's overweight, extremely overweight. And this this really bothers me that these people just went unrecognized.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were looking for.
I don't know. I mean, I think the shows, I've heard of, all of these shows. I'll admit I've never seen The Americans, but I know it's consistently been nominated, as has
That's
Kerry
right.
Russell and Matthew Rhys for being on the show. So I'm sure it's a phenomenal thing. I've just
And
never
I think
seen
they're
it.
wonderful.
Yeah.
They are both
absolutely. I've loved them in
incredible
other
actors.
things, and they're
Yeah.
terrible. I've just never seen that show. Bodyguard, it's in my queue. Homecoming, I haven't seen. Killing Eve, I personally haven't seen, but Pose, of course. I've seen every episode like 3 or 4 times. But I agree with you. Like, it just seems like there's so many shows now sometimes that as we were looking at this list to prepare for the show, we were going, I've never seen that. What's that? I've never heard of that. Quickly, Googling shows to find out. And that never used to happen. I used to have at least heard of, but there's just so many.
And it used to be really easy to check a show out.
Yeah.
Now to check a show out, you got to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And finding a show is not so easy anymore. Also, I hear about shows, now let me tell you, there's a show out there that's got so many stars that I still can't believe that it's on TV, called The Kaminsky Method on Netflix.
Nominated for Best TV Series, Musical or Comedy. And other nominations for acting.
You
Michael
have
Douglas was
Michael
nominated.
Douglas, Alan Arkin is in this. I mean, these are people who are superstars in the theater.
Yeah. Theater and movies.
I would never, no, I meant as in cinema.
Oh, yeah.
Cinema. I would never have imagined them on a TV series that gets dropped one day and you're all done.
Yeah.
To me, that's unbelievable. Julia Roberts being in a TV series,
Yeah.
short as it may be, also amazing.
And it just goes to show, I mean, the fact that neither of us who loves these people had even heard of the show.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that I'm getting a little nervous about with Netflix, more so than Hulu, is that they're sometimes really dropping like 2-3 shows a week without much fanfare. And maybe, I'm not in the demographic that they're aiming for, so maybe that's why it's not popping up for me. But I think they're overloading at a certain point. And I guess they're making money from it, so it's working for them. But I get worried that at some point they're going to reach this tipping point of like, well, I've given up because I just can't take the amount coming at me. Getting overwhelming.
I mean, Netflix just dropped a Sandra Bullock movie, Bird Box.
Yes.
So is this now considered a TV movie? Sandra Bullock is making a TV movie that's so big.
I don't know if I would call it a TV movie or just like a straight to home. Like so many.
Yeah.
Netflix and Hulu are such powerful mediums now that
That's right.
they're buying movies from festivals or making their own. I mean, that's the big thing, is some of it is that they're grabbing them from festivals, so they're not going to wide release. They're just drawing in traffic on Netflix and making Netflix.
Kelsey Grammer just had a movie
Yeah.
with Kristen Bell, I believe.
Yep.
Also on Netflix. They dropped the movie, and then he was asked once, why Netflix? Why did you let this go to Netflix? And he said, because then everybody can see it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend $50
To see
for
that
3
video.
people
Yeah.
to go see it. You can't even bring the whole family anymore for $50 to the movies most of the time.
Yeah.
The only time you can do a family movie for $50 is if you go at 10 o'clock in the morning. Truly.
Or like one of their kids only nights. Something like that. Oh, but it's just interesting as we look at, as
Right.
we were looking through these nominations, that so much is Netflix and some for Hulu, but Netflix for me really has just overwhelmed the market in some ways. And I'm wondering about the future of cinematic release, whether eventually Netflix is going to be like the Walmart of cinema. And nothing negative about Walmart, just that they're like the place you go when there's anything you can think of you need. Or the Amazon.
I was going to say the
Yeah.
Amazon, but Amazon's already there.
Yeah.
With Amazon Prime.
So they're already, they're going to be the
there.
Amazon of Amazon. I don't know.
One thing I'm thrilled about, and I told this to Rachel, I said I had to say, Henry Winkler won his Emmy. I'm so excited.
Yes.
So excited. He got his Emmy for Barry. Took him a gazillion years to finally win that Emmy. But best of all, he's now nominated for the same role for a Golden Globe in the TV show Barry on HBO.
Which
So happy for him.
I cannot wait to start watching that, because that's actually next on my list.
Oh, okay.
Because I love Henry Winkler. I mean, I've loved Henry Winkler since I used to watch reruns of
Happy Days.
And I loved him in like the little comedic roles that Adam Sandler would put him in movies, and his work with that production company. And I just think it's about time people start recognizing that he's not just fun. It's actually a very brilliant, talented comic actor.
And I'm going to say right now, Henry Winkler, talk about 6 degrees of separation, folks. Makes me think, okay, we go from Henry Winkler, then we go to Ron Howard. Okay? Ron Howard, who guested on This Is Us. Ron Howard does a guest on junk.
No, he really doesn't.
Once
I
again,
haven't seen him in years. If he's going to come back, it's going to be for quality.
even if it's just as a guest, but really? He wasn't going to go on that show and lend his name to that show if he didn't feel strongly that that show was value. Guess the Golden Globes didn't agree.
Or it just got overshadowed. That's the hard part, is knowing. Again, like, do they check off little boxes? Are they like rating them on? I don't know. But I mean, Henry Winkler is up against some pretty tight competition too.
And I know they set up reels.
Yeah.
And when they set up these reels to send to the people voting, they're very short. I don't know what they're putting together, but maybe the This Is Us people really need to figure out what they missed out on. Because there were some powerful scenes that I could have seen threaded together for Golden Globe reels.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to find out in just a few days.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even just looking at Henry Winkler, he's up against Ben Whishaw from A Very English Scandal, Kieran Culkin from Succession, Alan Arkin
From the
from The
Kaminsky
Kaminsky Method,
Method.
and Edgar Ramirez, who played Gianni Versace in the Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story on FX. And he was phenomenal in that.
And
And
by the way,
that's
FX,
like the
that show,
show.
that was a really powerful miniseries.
It really was.
And Darren Criss was nominated. The show itself wasn't, but Darren Criss was also.
And Darren Criss and Penelope Cruz, both.
Yeah.
Which it's always interesting to me when people are playing real people. And Darren Criss especially, I found his transformation shocking.
Right.
Because I knew him as Blaine on Glee. You know, he's this very upbeat, and he's a brilliant musical artist and comedian, but I never really had seen him in a serious role. And boy, did he just completely transform. I absolutely would not have known that it was him.
And I would
or
bet
that he
that's
was
why
in
he's
Glee.
getting all the recognition he's getting, because he's doing stuff that everybody thought was so out of out of the box for him.
Well, and he even said, he said in interviews that really it was Ryan Murphy who eventually said, you can do this. And if there's anybody in TV I would listen to, it is going to be Ryan Murphy, because the man is a King Midas of TV, minus the negative consequences of to everything you touch being gold. Like, he just,
Right.
you think about all of the shows, Glee, the American Horror Story, American Crime Story, Pose. He sees an empty space that no one else sees, and he fills it. And he fills it brilliantly and perfectly.
And he has a lot of people who don't like what he does. I personally think that's what they call envy.
Yeah. He's known for being kind of a hard person. Not necessarily to work with, but just like he knows what he wants and he's going to get it. But if these are the results, and
he also knows what the audience wants.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. Ryan Murphy,
people
when
are
you
finally
watch
starting to listen to
something
him.
that Ryan Murphy wrote, produced, directed, whatever,
The Normal Heart for HBO. Oh my God.
he makes television for viewers.
He does. He finds a way to stay with the plot.
That's right.
But have so much emotional content that you can't help but immediately connect to the characters. And, we spoke about Pose earlier, but it's one of the best shows I've ever seen on television ever. And he was able to put together the largest transgender cast in the history of television.
That's right.
And really do honor their journey and honor the spirit of the ballroom culture in the 80s in New York in a way that wasn't condescending at all.
No, not in the least.
It was celebrating through the voices of people who live in that world.
Oh, without question. I'm looking at the talent nominated for Pose. You see Billy Porter.
Who does it, like, if Billy Porter doesn't win a Golden Globe and an Emmy and somehow an Oscar for this role, like, if they can make a movie, just string a couple episodes together and put it in a theater, I will go watch it just to make it a movie so he can win this Oscar.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
He was incredible in Kinky Boots on Broadway.
Once again, why you get a Tony.
Exactly. He had a Tony for that. And this role for him as essentially an uncle figure, but also like an auntie figure within this culture. And there's so many dimensions to this character.
Yeah.
And he hits every note. There's not a moment of this character that I don't believe.
No, I would agree with that.
And the emotional content of his role, especially I don't want to spoil anything, but something he goes through. There's one scene where he and another one of the characters sings Home from The Wiz.
The Wiz. Yeah.
And I think I've listened to it 50 times since that episode, and I can't stop crying every time because it brings me back to that scene and what that moment meant for him. And I think that's what makes him stand out in that category.
Now, there is one category that sort of left this, it's got to be Netflix, Amazon Prime, and that was Best Performance by an Actress in a Television Series, Musical, or Comedy. And here we get most of the actresses are on regular network TV.
Yep.
I am looking forward to seeing how this ends up turning out. You have
I'm so excited.
Kristen Bell from The Good Place.
I'm so excited, so happy it's nominated. It's been one of the funniest shows on TV.
And
since
sort
its
of a
inception.
bizarre show. I think
So bizarre,
people
but it
really
works.
need to give this show time.
Yeah.
To me, it reminds me in many ways of Cheers.
Okay.
Because the first couple of years on Cheers, people could not stand it. They didn't get it.
Didn't understand the world that
It took them a good 2-3 years to really find the audience. I think The Good Place is there now. I think it's finding its good audience.
Well, the funny thing about Good Place too is every year it's gotten more and more complex, like the mythology of the show. This past season, one of the characters, the actress is Darcy Carden, who I've seen on Broad City, and I love her. She's from the New York improv scene. Performed her character pretending to be other characters, pretending to be her. And so it was like the scene in Harry Potter where they all take Polyjuice Potion. They're all dressed up as Harry Potter.
Right.
And so Daniel Radcliffe had to be all of these people being him. It was like that on TV, and I was sitting there spellbound by her ability. And this whole episode was a big secret. Like, nobody knew that this was going to happen. So as you're watching it unfold, and you're just like, what is happening? Why is this so amazing?
And being spoiler-free is not easy these days because so many things are given away through the internet. So that was pretty impressive. Then you get, and this was talk about a blast from the past, Candice Bergen is nominated for Murphy Brown. And I have to say, I've been watching it. Murphy Brown made its return. Something's missing that was there in the first round. I wish I loved it because I loved Murphy Brown.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if a lot of what made the show stand out then is commonplace now. Like a single mother who is working. And a lot of what made it very controversial or a step above, now it's like, oh yeah, there's a woman who has an opinion and a brain and she speaks. And
Right.
And everyone's just like, yeah, but we've seen that.
And I think, the whole show is about truly Murphy Brown and their group taking on the current political scene. I think maybe it's a little too much. And by the way, I have no problem with a TV show giving it all to us. I think they're giving it all to us in a way that's not new or that we haven't heard. And I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, they may have created their own downfall because they kind of, the original show really brought us all of these pieces.
Right.
And so everyone else now utilizes this tool set that they're using, but now it seems old because they created it.
I still remember way back when, pre-Twitter, pre-social media, when Murphy Brown was on, Dan Quayle responding to comments made by Murphy Brown.
He would.
Where then
He would.
where then the statement came out. Doesn't he know that's a fictional character? And it was hysterical because he brought Murphy Brown into the news.
Yeah.
Now, it's almost like Murphy Brown is feeling old. Old news, not old character.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see how this turns out. I mean, Candice Bergen brings everything that she does 100%
She's still phenomenal in the role.
in the role.
It's just, does that show have a place on TV now?
Yeah. Whereas I see Deborah Messing, who's also nominated in this category, in Will and Grace, there's clearly the agenda of the political world now. But they handle it in a very different way. They handle it through being very funny.
And it's still really just about them and their relationships.
And they
And I
even
think
have the
that's why they can
character,
sustain.
Megan Mullally's character of Karen.
Always.
Okay, yeah,
Always.
right, Karen. Okay. So her character is hilarious because her character is all about supporting Trump. Karen is, not the actress, but Karen. But when she says things, they're hilarious because in their own way, they really make a statement. I recently watched, she made a donation to help build the wall.
Oh, I didn't even see that episode yet.
Yes, so she goes to her space in the wall that's supposed to be the one that she helped build. And someone else said he donated for the same space. I'm sorry. They could bring that, and we see how silly so many things are in the real world. But through a humor.
Yeah.
It's not the same as Murphy Brown doing it as a reporter on a talk show.
Yep.
So it's a very different feel. But in this case, it's Deborah Messing, once again, Best Actress, Will and Grace, for the role of Grace. She's hilarious, always will be. But that's about where we are in the networks. Everywhere else, we're either off network or even off cable TV, going into Netflix and going into Amazon Prime. Mrs. Maisel, she's back.
She's back.
She's back.
And Rachel Brosnahan nominated again, which is, I don't think, a surprise to anyone at this point. When you see her in interviews and then you see the character, that, again, that transformation, that's what's so, that's what impresses me as a viewer. I even remember, when I used to watch House and Hugh Laurie would be interviewed and I'd be like, wait a second, Hugh Laurie is British? And then, even that.
Well, Matthew Rhys also.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many of these actors and actresses are able to get accents and mannerisms for a very specific American time frame, and they're from the Australian outback. And it's how do they do that? And then Alison Brie to round out that category.
Yes.
And she's incredible on Glow. And she was phenomenal in Mad Men, and she was hilarious in Community. And I really love that she's getting recognition now for the talent that goes behind comedy. Because, people say, oh,
Right.
you're funny or you're not. But there's a lot of work that goes into being funny.
There is.
There are actors who say
absolutely.
it's way harder to be funny than it is to be emotionally serious in a role. And I love that we're really allowing people to shine in these roles.
I think one of the things that's a big standout for me is some of the usuals are not here. The Handmaid's Tale has some nominations for some talent, but not the show. Yet on the flip side, we have some super movie stars nominated in a variety of categories that you would have never imagined them either being on TV or returning to TV. Jim Carrey.
Yep.
Jim Carrey is nominated
Jim
for a
Carrey.
TV show, not for a movie role.
Yeah.
Not for a movie role.
And Jim Carrey is, again, one of those actors to me that I only saw him as a comedic actor, and then I saw him in The Majestic.
Yes.
And even though I had seen The Truman Show,
Right.
that to me, there was still that comedy and that physical comedy piece. But my goodness, The Majestic. And then ever since then, I've really sought out, different roles for him. Man on the Moon.
Well,
he did.
he
It's
suddenly
just-
demonstrated that he's a well-rounded actor.
Yeah.
He's not one note.
And he's not just funny faces and twisting his
He's,
body.
he's not the Grinch.
Yeah,
Oh
he's
my-
not the Grinch.
He's played a good
not
Grinch,
just
by the
Ace
way.
Ventura. He's
Right,
everything.
right. And then, of course, like we said before, you see Michael Douglas is on these lists. Donald Glover is on this list. I'm just...
Again, should
I'm
win
sorry.
every award.
Laura Dern
Yeah.
is nominated on this list. Regina King, I hope she gets something. I mean, she's in a category that looks like...
That is a stacked category.
Okay, so for best performance by an actress in a limited series or motion picture made for television, which I'm thinking, oh my God, how many are there going to be in the
Yeah.
future now that this is a category?
Yeah.
Amy Adams, Patricia Arquette, Connie Britton, Laura Dern, Regina King. Hello. I mean, just in terms of who I would pick to go see in a movie, I'd have to flip a coin.
Yeah. Well, and that's when you look at this, there's not a single person here that I could look at and say, oh, that's a throwaway or that's a guaranteed win. It is truly insane how stacked these categories are.
Okay, so really fast before we end. Best television series drama, what would your pick be?
Oh, Outlander, Handmaid's Tale, Killing Eve, Homecoming, and Americans. I think I'm going to have to go with Killing Eve. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at best performance. Best television series drama, Pose. I have to go with Pose. It is everything to me. I want
Okay.
to watch it all day long.
Okay, I love Pose, but I have a feeling we're going to see Killing Eve.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I'm thinking we're going to see. And then I want to go down Best Television Series, Musical, or Comedy. The nominees are Barry on HBO, The Good Place, NBC, Kidding on Showtime, The Kaminsky Method, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
I'd love to see The Good Place win, but I think they're going to go with something that's more of a critic Hollywood favorite. I think they're going to go with Kaminsky, Maisel, or Barry.
I'm with you on that. I'm trying to pick one. I'm thinking maybe Kaminsky, just because they've also nominated the whole cast.
That's true.
They must love the
That's-
show.
yeah.
Somebody loves that show.
Yeah.
And finally, what I wanted to do was see, I'm hoping this category to me is really loaded. Best performance by an actor in a supporting role in a series, limited series, or motion picture made for TV. I'm thinking if they don't give something to Alan Arkin or Henry Winkler, I will cry. They're both nominated. I hope you go with me on that one, please.
I support you.
Thank you. So, thank you for joining us today on another episode of Carolyn Talks Television. Rachel and I love starting our new year with you,
Thanks, guys.
and we will see you next month.
See you soon.